Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. Sunday morning. What's going on in the world? Well, we got a problem. We got coronavirus. It's spreading in China. I believe it's 4 cities now, if not more. And with us this morning is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has served as the Director of Allergy and Infectious Diseases at the National Institute of Health for 36 years. How are you, Dr. Fauci? How are you?
Very well, John. Good to be with you.
What can you tell the American people about what's going on? Should they be scared?
I don't think so. The American people should not be worried or frightened by this. It's a very, very low risk to the United States, but it's something that we as public health officials need to take very seriously. This is a virus that has emerged and jumped species from an animal reservoir. It's a virus, interestingly, coronaviruses in general cause common colds. About 10 to 25% of the common colds every season are due to relatively benign coronaviruses. But what happened about 18 years ago in 2002 was that a coronavirus jumped species from a animal reservoir to humans in China and started infecting people, getting serious pulmonary disease. There were 8,000 cases and about 775 deaths. That was SARS. You might remember, John. It was the SARS outbreak, severe acute respiratory syndrome. And then in 2012, we had another similar outbreak of another coronavirus that jumped species and infected men in the Middle East and women in the Middle East. And that was called MERS, or the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. And now, for the third time, we have a coronavirus in China that apparently jumped species from some animal reservoir, infected people, and now we have an evolving situation of many cases that are now evolving more and more each day. But it's gone beyond just this epicenter in a city called Wuhan, Wuhan, in central China. But now it's people infected in other cities, including Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. And there's been now people who've traveled from there and have gotten sick in places like Thailand, Japan, and South Korea. We know now there has been a case that has been in the United States, and that's someone who traveled to Wuhan, came back without any symptoms, developed symptoms, and luckily the health providers were alert enough and astute enough to identify the person and isolate them, and that person is now in isolation doing very well. So it's an evolving situation, John, of a virus that has been essentially non-existent in humans until it made this jump in China, and now we have on our hands an outbreak. Having said that, getting back to your first question, it isn't something that the American public needs to worry about or be frightened about, because we have ways of preparing, of screening, of people coming in, and we have ways of responding, like we did with this one case in Seattle, Washington, who had traveled to China and brought back the infection.
Is antibiotics effective towards this?
No, there is no treatment. It's a virus, John, and antibiotics are not effective against viruses. We don't have any effective antivirals, and there's no vaccine, but we are working on a vaccine right now. We actually started it almost immediately upon getting the sequence of the virus, and it'll be about, 3 months or so before we can start testing it in phase 1 studies in human. That doesn't mean we'll have a vaccine in 3 months. That means that we'll at least begin to start testing it in preliminary testing.
In addition, is it in China because of all the live animals that are being sold?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, China, among other countries, has a lot of close interaction and contact between people, particularly in crowded places, and what they call wet markets, where there are a lot of live animals that are being sold. In this case, there was kind of first recognized near a fish market, which had more than just fish. There were birds and bats and snakes and a variety of other things in the market. But your suggestion, John, is really quite correct, that it's the proximity between people, the population of humans, and animals that could harbor these viruses, where it then jumps species, infects a human, and then humans infect each other.
Now, in addition, anything else you want to tell our listeners about the coronavirus?
Well, except that it's an evolving situation. Every day we have to look at it very, very carefully. It does not seem to be as efficient in the persistent, sustained transmission from human to human. Without a doubt, it can spread from one human to another. What it doesn't seem yet to be doing as efficiently, certainly not like influenza, which spreads very efficiently in a sustained way, this does not do so, which means that just like SARS, we have the possibility with good public health measures of hopefully getting control of it.
I remember the first time we talked to Dr. Fauci, it was the mosquitoes attacking in Florida. Have we beat that?
Yeah, Zika is no longer a problem. I mean, the Zika problem that you and I spoke about a few years ago was mostly in South America and the Caribbean. And interestingly, as what happens in sometimes with vector-borne, in this case mosquito-borne diseases, there was a big blast of activity, and then it kind of disappeared. There's some activity, but very little activity now. Brazil was the epicenter of the Zika outbreak, and we had some spillover of cases into the United States, in Florida particularly, and some in Texas, but mostly in Florida. That's no longer an issue right now. There's no Zika in the United States, and there's very little in South America.
Understood. That's good news. Anything else we want to tell the American public?
Well, no, John, except that, we often talk about emerging diseases, and it's very interesting. One day it's chikungunya, then it's Zika, then it's Ebola, and now it's this new coronavirus. So we've just got to make sure we're totally prepared that infectious diseases will continue to emerge on the human species, and we've got to be essentially perpetually prepared, and hopefully we'll get better and better at it.
So would you tell the American public that if they travel in places like China, that you have to be extra careful?
Well, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the State Department just came out with their alert saying that they shouldn't be traveling to China unless absolutely necessary. So they're really suggesting that people don't travel to Wuhan, not to China in general. I mean, China is a very big country, but particularly the Wuhan city, which is the epicenter. The State Department has an alert out that one should be very careful about traveling and not travel there.
Thank you so much for your help. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, Director of Allergy and Infectious Diseases of the National Institute of Health, you've saved many lives over your lifetime, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot, John. It's always good to be with you.
Thank you. This is the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.